Thank you. So, yes, as you heard, my childhood was a bit of a challenge. I was quite overweight, I struggled with my energy levels, I couldn't concentrate very well at school. I found it hard to do simple things like just doing one lap of the oval, or even doing one push-up. It was about the age of 17 where I found myself in an MRI machine, listening to some loud thuds as this big machine was scanning my brain looking for a tumour. Now, being about the age of 17, which is probably roughly the same age as some of you in this room, this was quite a daunting and terrifying experience, not knowing what would happen if they did find a tumour in my brain. The specialist came up to me and he said, "Look, we've got some really good news. You haven't got a tumour." And of course, I was excited, I was ecstatic, and I was over the moon. But, because there's always a but, isn't there? But the reason why you're struggling with your weight and your health and your energy levels and your concentration, the reason why you're struggling so much is that you suffer from a condition called low testosterone, or what's known as hypogonadism. Now, as a 17-year-old boy, I thought I knew everything, right? But I had no idea what that meant, but I know it didn't sound good. He then came up to me and he presented a rather large needle to me. And he said, "Look, in order to be well, you need to take this needle and you've got to put it in your butt every couple of weeks." So I looked at the needle and then I looked at him. And I looked back at the needle and then I looked at him again. Now, I didn't know that at the time, but this was a pivotal moment in my life. Because I said, "Look, thank you so much, but I'm going to pass. And I'm going to try and find another way." So this was me and my girlfriend at the time, well, my now wife, Alison. As you can see, I was still pretty unwell. I was still quite overweight. I think I was about 108 kilos at the time. I struggled with my energy levels still. I still found it hard to concentrate. I don't know how, but I was bumbling my way through university. And I learned a principle at one stage. And it was something that absolutely transformed my life. And I went from this to this in about 8 months. No needles, no surgery, no drugs. Now, I'm not saying that drugs and surgery are a bad thing. And I'm not saying that our medical system is bad in any way. In fact, if I get shot or fall off a building or have a serious infectious disease, or if that happens to me and my family, please, give us all the life-saving drugs possible. And I'm eternally grateful that we have that system in place. However, if you go to the hospitals and you go to the private clinics around, unfortunately, it's not those things that they're dealing with most of nowadays. It's what we call lifestyle choices or chronic illness that's really the big problem, how we eat, move, and think. So I'm not so sure that the model that we have in place with our healthcare system is the right model for today. It's pretty powerful, isn't it? So I started asking different questions. I stopped asking questions around, well, what symptom does a person have? What diagnosis should they be given? What treatment should they have? And I started asking questions along the lines of, can the person heal themselves? And if they can heal themselves, what is required in order to assist that person to heal? We know the body can heal, don't we? Like if you get a cut on your arm, you don't have to do anything to heal it. As long as you don't chop your arm off, your body's going to know what to do. In fact, you're constantly repairing every single cell and every tissue in your body all the time. I mean, you'll have 200 hairs that'll fall out of your head every day, and within a couple of years, you'll have a completely new head of hair. You'll have a brand new gut lining every few days. You'll have a brand new skeleton every 10 years, and you've got the muscles that move that skeleton every 15 years are completely brand new. You've got your thumbnails every 6 months will be completely brand new. There's 100 million red blood cells that are dying off every few minutes and then reborn. And within 3 to 4 months, you'll have a brand new army of red blood cells to help transmit oxygen and nutrients. And here's something I found very, very interesting. You have about 85 billion to 100 billion neurons in your brain, cells in your brain, that are constantly wiring and connecting and forming almost like a bird nest type of beautiful mesh that is sending information down your spinal cord and out into your body at the rate of up to 350 kilometers per hour. Now, it's this information that tells your heart to beat. It tells your gut to digest food. It tells the muscles how to move. It tells you how to balance. It tells you how to think. It's this information that coordinates that cut you've just got on your arm. And this was fascinating to me. So here's a big question I started asking. If the body can heal, given enough time and the right environment, can we start to overcome conditions that we once thought were incurable? Good question, huh? It was one of my mentors, Dr. James Chestnut, who asked me a question that fundamentally changed my life and set me on the path that I am today and kind of here in front of you. Would you like to hear what it is? Yeah? Okay. If you get a plant and that plant starts to wilt and break, just like that, what would you do? How would you help the plant? Water it. Why didn't you say drugs? Or surgery? It doesn't make a lot of sense, does it? See, the thing is, deep down, you know that that plant has the ability to heal itself, and that it's just missing out on vital ingredients to do the job, like water or sunlight, maybe the correct soil. You see, in nature, we tend to think along these lines all the time. Even in biology, if an animal species gets sick or becomes endangered, we look at the environment. We look at what's causing the sickness. Yet when we look at the human animal, we don't tend to think along those lines, do we? We think about what's wrong with us. And herein lies the problem. So I gathered all my research, all the best scientific stuff I could find. I did my second big daring thing, which was I packed up my house with my wife and my children. And yes, I moved from Newcastle to Sydney, and we set up a health and wellness studio. I started recruiting people like yoga teachers and personal trainers and chiropractors, food coaches, mindset coaches. And now what we do is we teach people what food should a human animal eat? And what type of movement should a human animal do? And what type of internal environment and external environment around you does a human animal need in order to be well? And we also teach people something very important but often overlooked. We teach people about a healthy, normal spine and a normal functioning nervous system. Why? Because that's the thing that coordinates the healing in the body, isn't it? Watch this. Who can tell me what this thing up here is? Brain. Very good. What are these things here? Excellent. How does the brain, where does the brain send messages down? What's this thing? Spinal cord? Yeah, absolutely. And what is it that protects the spinal cord like a suit of armor? Spine. Right. So it was Nobel Prize winning Professor Robert Speary who said that the more mechanically distorted a person is, the less energy they have for thinking, metabolizing, and healing. Just going to do something here. I'm just checking social media. Does this look familiar? In fact, have you ever seen anyone walking around like this saying, I have so much energy right now. I love my life and I'm completely focused on what I'm doing. So I didn't know it at the time, but daring to trust my gut when I was a 17-year-old boy fundamentally changed my life. And I'm going to leave you with a question. When the time comes and you're presented with a choice, are you going to dare to trust your own instincts and your gut and do what you believe is right? Or are you just going to do what everyone else does? Thank you.